Hi there, and welcome to part 3 on our series of Patrick Henry. Today, we're going to talk about Patrick Henry and the Gunpowder Incident. Now, the Gunpowder Incident was not specific to Virginia, but really affected every colony. The problems all really began with those rabble-rousers up north in New England. Most Americans are fairly familiar with the Boston Tea Party. However, what is less known is the response of the Founding Fathers. Almost all Virginians, including Patrick Henry, condemned the Tea Party as reprehensible. I mean, you can't just go around and destroy other people's property because you think you're being treated unfairly. That's lawlessness. At first, the Boston Tea Party gained a lot of sympathy for the British government in Virginia. That is, until they saw how the British government reacted. What was known as the Intolerable Acts were passed by Parliament against the people of Massachusetts. They closed the port of Boston and imposed martial law until the money for the Tea Party was paid back. Across America, people were outraged that every Bostonian was punished for the actions of a few. All the sympathy the Virginians had for the Brits vanished overnight. Now, the British sent General Thomas Gage to Boston to become the new royal governor. General Gage had a long career in the British Army, even serving with George Washington in the French and Indian War. Gage was known for his skill as an administrator, but this job was going to be his most difficult. He was in with an impossible situation, and as tensions rose, Britain believed that in order to prevent outright rebellion, they needed to remove the stores of gunpowder from the local communities. The first attempt was made by Gage in September of 1774, the town called Somerville. It was successful mainly due to Gage catching the Americans by surprise. However, future attempts would be foiled by vigilant citizens, and one would even lead to the start of the American Revolution. Down in Williamsburg, everyone was on edge, and a lot of blame could be laid at the feet of Royal Governor John Murray, aka Lord Dunmore. Even before Dunmore's arrival in Williamsburg, he was widely mistrusted by Virginians. Dunmore made it very clear he would much rather be in New York. I mean, who wouldn't? And after a very public affair with a married woman, he was left with very few supporters. Dunmore had no time for the American grievances and had no problem stepping on anyone to curry favor with London. In the spring of 1775, rumors were spreading around Williamsburg that Dunmore was going to seize the gunpowder in the magazine. At first, the townspeople kept a vigilant watch. However, by April 20th, the people had dismissed the rumors. This is what Dunmore was waiting for, and he ordered the Captain Henry Collins and his 20 sailors to come to Williamsburg in the middle of the night to start removing the gunpowder from the magazine. Collins and his men loaded up about 15 barrels of powder before they were discovered. The town responded quickly. Men flooded the streets. The sailors, not looking for a fight, hightailed out of town, making it back to their ship anchored in the York River. The colonists gathered up outside of Governor's Palace, and they were a little peeved, to say the least. Now, before the Virginians could go in and drag Dunmore out by his wig, the cooler heads in the crowd prevailed and sent a small group in to talk to Dunmore. Dunmore claimed the reason he took the powder was because of an imminent slave rebellion. Now, a slave rebellion was one of the great fears for the white men and women of Virginia. And while a slave rebellion was frightening, most of the Virginians saw through Dunmore's excuse. However, Dunmore went even farther when he threatened to actually start a slave rebellion himself if the Americans harmed any British government employees in response to taking the gunpowder. So who comes to the rescue? Our man, Patrick Henry. Henry was out west in Hanover County near present-day Richmond when he heard about the gunpowder incident. So Henry gets on his horse, gathers as many men as he can, starts marching towards Williamsburg. When he gets to Robert Corbin's house, he stops. Corbin is Virginia's Receiver General, which means he has the Crown's money. So Henry, politely, tells him to reimburse the Virginians for the powder, or else Corbin is going to have a very bad day. Corbin immediately hands over the money, and Henry and his men leave. This was the best solution for everyone, mainly because no one was hurt, and both sides could claim victory. As I said in the beginning, this was not an isolated incident, but was occurring in all 13 colonies. In fact, the day before, on April 19, 1775, a group of British soldiers trying to seize gunpowder stores in Massachusetts were confronted by the local Massachusetts militia, which led to the battles of Lexington and Concord, starting the American Revolution. Virginia was in turmoil, and things were quickly spiraling out of control for Lord Dunmore. And 1775 would also be one of the most dramatic years for Patrick Henry. He would face incredible pain in both his public and personal life. He would come out as one of the greatest leaders of the American Revolution. Next time, we will discuss Henry's stint as governor of Virginia and one of the great tragedies in his life. Thanks for watching, and if you are interested in learning more about our great founders, please subscribe. God bless.